you went through the editorial process with me, but then you also had a copy editor and a proofreader. It's very different than just writing for yourself or doing your own revision. How was that experience on the other end?
I think partly because I turned in what I considered to be a finished manuscript. I was irritated a little bit.
You know, actually, that's an interesting point, because something I've said and a lot of people say in these conferences, which is absolutely true, is you want to submit the best.
Turn in a good manuscript, because I sat on this thing. I didn't sit on it for a year. I mean, I worked on it every week for a year and cut 100 pages, and I said, I want this thing to be tight. I want it to be a page turner, and I want it to be so literary that nobody even notices that it's literary. And so that was my task. And so when the phone rang in October and I was, you know, in my depressed seasonal affective disorder sleep at 10 o'clock in the morning, I didn't even wonder who is calling me. I knew it was Peter Joseph, because I knew I had done my job. And I also told Kimmy, I said, you know, I hope this is not going to be a problem, because I think this book is done. I don't mean done. I don't mean fine-tuned done, but this is the book that I wanted to write. And I think a lot of us do send things out there in the world. And you said this about the kind of the first year that we had the Tony Hillerman Prize. A lot of people put things away and then pull them out years later and hand them over as if they're finished manuscripts, and they are not. So I would caution you that, you know, make it as good as you can make it, and then start your negotiations from there.
Can I remind you guys that Peter, you had to make sure it was his first?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That was a big deal.
Oh yeah,
the first conversation.
There is an interesting, you know, and to be honest, I usually Google the authors too, because the prize is for first novel. You know, it's a first mystery, but it's a first novel, and so I want to make sure that the person hasn't written a novel before and had it published. And you never know. You know, you just want to double check that before you go, before we're sitting up here on stage and they casually mention it. So in that case,
about that porno novel I wrote in the 70s. 40 Shades of Grey. It wasn't quite good enough.
So, I do that. I'll Google someone and just double check. And I know in your case, I call. I think part of the call is this, like, this is Peter Joseph.
He was trying to fool me.
Yeah.
He was trying to trick me. He was like, what about your other novels? And I was like, you know, my dad threw them away. We're in a cabin in Vermont being eaten by mice.
But you know, I mean, I definitely actually.
She didn't think I was a first novel.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's true. That's true. In your case, I really thought, like, oh, maybe this person, like, is writing under a pseudonym. Like, people have done this, and not, maybe they've done it with the Hillerman Prize and not won and felt chagrined, but people in other cases have submitted, you know, famous authors will then write a novel under a pseudonym and just see how the process goes. I mean, I guess actually J.K. Rowling with her Galbraith novels is a good example of that, where she just wanted to see what people would say about the books on their own. And I think her book, you know, the first one, Cuckoo's Calling, it got very nice reviews, but it was just, you know, a new mystery by an Midwest unknown author. And then, you know, she didn't plan it this way, but someone spilled the beans and suddenly they're huge bestsellers. But, you know, it is an interesting thing that does happen occasionally, and I'm always sort of worried about it. Like, I want to make sure I'm not, you know, accidentally publishing someone who's going to turn around and try to, like, make a point about literature or something like that for us.
But in actuality, it wasn't his first novel. It was his 10th novel, but the first to be published. So
yeah.
He had lots of experience in writing the other.
I almost not every author, but a lot of authors that I've worked with and other people in publishing work with, you know, they have a dry run. Some people, I think they call them like the drawer novels. Trunk studies. Yeah, exactly. So I guess you have a lot of drawers on your desk, but you know,
they're all great though.
Well, that's the thing, is like, it's experience, and I don't think now, especially with self-publishing, there's a real danger, I think, sometimes where an author writes something and you don't even want to think about it. You just want people to read it, and so you just put it out there, and that can be it can be a danger, just because maybe you did actually need some of that training. Maybe you needed a dry run where you learn, like, how to plot the middle of a book, and so next time you're thinking ahead to it and you're prepared for it. So if you're writing a novel and it just hasn't worked or hasn't sold, like, I think it's key to say don't give up. I think Trisha Fields, a couple of years ago, was here saying the same thing. She had actually written a few books with the same main character even that hadn't clicked. And so when she submitted to the prize, she actually had all this experience, not necessarily always heartening experience, struggling to write new books.